everybody. I'm April and this is Cass, and we're here for week number 8 on our book. We got one more week after this week.
The penultimate episode.
What is?
This is the penultimate.
I don't know what that means.
We discussed this with our last book.
Okay,
The second to
I
last.
forgot what it is.
The second to last in a season or in a series.
It's called what?
The penultimate.
Penultimate.
We had this discussion last time, and Kelsey had to tell us what the word for it was live on the air.
Okay. Well, that goes to show you how good my memory is. I done forgot what it was. I have no recollection whatsoever of this conversation. But that's okay. I'm sure you and Kelsey will keep me straight.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so today's chapter, number 8, is called Giving Up What Was Never Ours. We are managers, not owners, of God's resources. So, what do you think of this chapter? This is a little different than the ones we've
it was
been
kind
doing.
of different. And at first, I was like, this is a little different.
Yeah.
But I think there was definitely, a lot of good in it.
Yeah, things that we needed to learn about, or realize. I think,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think the whole point of this book has been to draw our attention to things that maybe we know but we haven't thought of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so this is maybe another area that is always good for us to recognize, that maybe we know it, but she gave us a little different way to look at it.
Yeah, a little different spin.
Yeah. And I think in the whole process of saying yes to God, we can't say yes to God without also saying yes with our money, with our resources, not just our heart, mind, and soul, but our body and our physical assets.
When you think practically about, the world we live in and everything that goes on, like it takes money and it takes things those resources to reach people.
Yeah, it really does.
So, you might not always have those, but when you do, it's important.
And you may not always be able to do everything that God's calling you to do yourself, but your money and your resources can help those jobs get accomplished. And, He gives us opportunity to help other people to accomplish things that they're out on the mission field. And we may not be called to be on the mission field, but we're all called to give, towards that. Okay, so she starts off talking about her daughter, which I thought was pretty funny. She says that her daughter had just celebrated her 9th birthday, and this sounded like a conversation I would have had with Kinsey or Cass when they were about that age, because the daughter had gotten a $10 bill for her birthday. And as Lisa drove up to the drive-thru window, she realized she's going to be a tad short on money to pay for their meal. So she remembered that the daughter had the $10 bill, and so she's like, "Hey, can I borrow that $10 bill and I'll pay you back?" And the daughter said, "No, my $10 bill." And come to find out, she wasn't really it wasn't that she didn't trust her mom.
Yeah.
She just wanted the $10 bill. She said, "I don't want 10 ones. I don't want 2 5s. I don't want a 5 and 5 ones.
I want this nice $10 bill."
Yes. And it made me laugh because I thought,
Well, and as somebody who works with kids all day, I have had these conversations about other things. Like, okay, I need that one and you can have this one. They're like, "No, I don't want that one. I want this one." And I'm like, "But it's the same. I need you. Like, I need that one. And they're like, that's mine. I don't." And then like full meltdowns over like, "That's my eraser. That's my this." So I was fully on board with this because I can picture myself like having this conversation about something with a kid that really doesn't make any sense. And you're like, "Please."
Yeah, so basically she wanted to just borrow a few dollars and then she was going to pay her back. And I like the part where she says, "I asked her if she trusted that I would pay her back, and she said she did. But I might not pay her back with a $10 bill." She did not want 2 5s. She did not want 10 ones. She did not want any combination of bills. She wanted a 10. And then she said, even after that, she said, "I offered that I would give her the change from the money plus $10 bill later. Even this offer was not enough to release her tight grip on the beloved $10 bill. She did not want a $10 bill later because she might miss showing it off to her friends today. And we're on page 128, where she said, did my sweet daughter not realize that I had the ability to bless her with many $10 bills? Did she not appreciate the fact I had just spent the equivalent of more than 10 $10 bills on her birthday party and, and all that? And then she said, finally the daughter did let her have it. She said, and how it must disappoint God when we do the very same thing. And we do, don't we?
Yeah.
We'll grip on that $10 bill. No, God, I need this. Even if I know in my heart that you will bless my giving, I want this. I want this thing. This thing I've got right now. And then she talks about that she had special knowledge that the grandmother had sent her $50 that was sitting in the mailbox, and she knew that would even make that $10 bill seem small.
Yeah.
And then she, compares that to how God has special knowledge of the blessings He has for us.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of trust again, isn't it?
Yeah. I like when she says, He has blessings for the radically obedient that make the dime store stuff we're so intent on holding on to pale in comparison.
Yeah, yeah. And the question is, do we trust Him? Do we trust that He will bless us? Do we trust His blessings are infinitely better than what He might first ask us to release? The Bible's full of stories that where people are holding on too tightly to their whatever it is, isn't it? Yeah. And how God blesses people. I immediately thought of Isaac, Abraham and Isaac, and how God had called him even to let go of his son. And even though God didn't end up requiring that, it was the asking, and the being willing, that Abraham was willing. And then he received the blessing of God. And the Bible even said that Abraham was God's friend. He thought of him as his friend. So there's infinite rewards for being obedient, and sometimes it requires us letting go of something.
Yeah, well, and I think sometimes like that willingness is one of the big things. I know earlier in the book when she talked about her and her husband like talking about selling the house, and like how they didn't even end up selling the house right away, but just that like being willing.
Loosening their grip on something,
being willing to, do that extra step,
Yeah.
do something that, maybe they didn't really want to do.
Or something that didn't come easy. Yeah, I think because God does test our willingness, constantly, and our devotion to Him. Are we devoted with our heart, but not with our money? Where's the limits?
Yeah.
What is it that we're not willing to give to God? And, He knows, but sometimes He has to reveal it to us, because sometimes we think, oh, we're willing, till it comes right down to it, and then we realize we're holding on too tight.
Yeah.
Because that saying that I like, don't hold on too tightly because it's going to hurt. That's going to hurt more when God takes it out of your hands, But we need to be willing, don't we?
Yeah.
It don't need to have to be pulled out of her hands like Lisa thought she's going to have to do that $10 bill.
Yeah.
I bet she thought, I'm about to have to wrestle this kid down for this $10. That tickled me. But she said she begrudgingly finally gave it, didn't she? So, God does ask us to release stuff that means something to us. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the sinner tax collector comment. Even sinners and tax collectors love those that love them. And we're kind of like that in that we can compare this. We're willing to let go of stuff that don't mean nothing to us. But when it gets down to something that means something to us, that's when we kind of, I want this $10 bill. I like this, So it's the same kind of thing. Everybody's willing to let go of stuff that don't mean nothing to them.
Take something off your plate that you don't want anyway.
Right. I'll give you my bag of trash.
Yeah.
You want it? Oh, okay. Yeah, you have it. But now you want something. You want my favorite shirt. or you want my, my $100 bill, then I might have to, now I really like that, It's kind of like we've been dealing with Kenneth's golf balls, and it's kind of like he loved every one of them golf balls. Like, he didn't want none of them getting away, did he? Just FYI, y'all, we sold 102,000 golf balls that we had to pick up by hand.
For all of you lucky people who don't really know how many that would really be, 300 fit in a 5-gallon bucket, and we sold 102,000.
And we still have some left. We're trying to sell them so we can make money, so eventually we can make a little putt-putt course over at the campground to honor Mama and Kenneth's memory and their love of spending time on the golf course. So, but anyway, I used to say to Kenneth, like, you need to sell more of these things. You need to give them away. You need to be, getting rid of these. Girl, like, don't. And I'd say, I'm going to throw any away I find in the kitchen. And he would rush in there and clean that kitchen up and get all of them out.
They'd be in the sink. Like a stack of golf balls this high in the kitchen sink.
But like he held on tightly to his golf balls, though, didn't he?
Or in the couch.
Everywhere you looked. Anyway. Okay, so then at the bottom of 128, the little subtitle is The Floodgates of Blessings. Trust. Isn't that why more of us don't offer all we have to God? We don't trust that He will really throw open the floodgates of blessing in return. And they give us a quote here from Malachi 3:10, where God says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have enough room for it. Sacrificial giving is one of the few times that God asks us to test Him. I like that. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah. And I kind of thought this section was interesting because I know, like, last week we talked a good bit about focus, which is your focus word for the year. And mine is abundance. And so I kind of thought this was interesting because you don't really think about, like, sacrifice and abundance going together. Like, you think of those two as, like, opposite words. But so many times in this chapter, they're kind of referenced, like, hand in hand. Like, your sacrifice leads to an abundance. So I just kind of thought that was interesting. And I think, just because that's, like, my word for the year, it kind of jumped out at me because, I've never really thought of sacrifice and abundance being something that could be connected. But
when you look at it from God's perspective, here it is, isn't it? Because He calls us not to just give, but to give sacrificially, because there's a difference, isn't there? Like, we're all comfortable giving a little bit, but sacrificial giving means that you are actually sacrificing something of value. So you got to kind of give till it hurts,
Well, and even like within non-monetary things, like, your time or whatever it may be, like, you're sacrificing. If you're sacrificing something for the Lord, like, there will be an abundance to come.
Yeah, you promise that you'll be blessed for what you're giving.
Yeah.
And I think that, it really does work out that way. I've seen it work out that way. And so many times we would find something to give to and think, oh, this is going to really put a burden on our budget. And I remember when I first went to work for Ty Singer many years ago, and it was maybe within the first couple months that I worked there that, J9 3.3 did their share-a-thon, friend-a-thon, whatever they do. And I remember driving home and thinking, I really feel like I should, donate to this, And then I thought, I don't know. We're so tight with money. I don't know. And I come home I don't remember exactly how I did it, but anyway, I asked Herb, do you think we could manage this? $30 a month. It don't sound like a lot, but sometimes $30 a month is a lot. And I remember him saying, yeah, if you feel like we need to do it, we'll do it. So we started giving that, and you never miss it. You know, you think it's going to be a burden on you, and you're afraid. You're afraid like to let go of something because you're like, oh, you know, that's gonna hurt. But all these years later, and we don't miss it, you know. And everything that we've give to like that consistently, you know, like that, we've never missed it. Yeah. In fact, God continues to bless, you know, and you know, you not only do you not miss it, it don't hurt you, but you don't even miss it.
Yeah.
And somebody else is getting the benefit from it, you know, and it's nice to be able to know that you got some part in helping out, you know, ministries. All right, so what else you think?
Well, Kelsey commented and said, this chapter reminds me of the story from the Gospels when the widow gave very little, but it was everything she had. Then the rich gave larger donations, but it was a tiny portion of their abundance. Jesus said the widow gave more than any of the rich did. It's about the faith and heart of the giver, not the size of the gift. She gave a great sacrifice of her resources, while the rich barely put a dent in theirs. Sacrificial giving is supposed to be an act of worship, and we need to realize our resources belong to God, and He just lets us steward them to further His kingdom.
Yeah, very true, very good. Yeah. So you know, it's giving as an act of worship. I like that Kelsey brought that out. It's an act of worship, and it's an act of obedience, and it's an act of releasing and surrendering, and actually realizing that it ain't ours.
Yeah.
God is letting us be the stewards of it, and we need to be willing to let those blessings go where they need to go.
Yeah.
To further His kingdom, you know, in that way. Yeah, and Lisa goes on to talk to us, and she's told this story before, I think, about the outfits. Or was it on the devotion?
I don't think I've seen it before.
You had? Okay, well, I had read it somewhere. So she was saving, she went to do a speaking engagement and got embarrassed because her outfit was not the right season or something. She was wearing white shoes and she wasn't supposed to. But anyway, and she went, you know, she said that she was embarrassed, but she went ahead and spoke up for God, of course. But she said then she vowed in her mind she was going to start saving up money so she could update her wardrobe. And so she saved up $100. And so some of her friends and her was going to go shopping with this money and help her buy a new outfit. Yeah. And but in the meantime, something happened to one of her friends, and the friend was talking to her about it and saying, "Pray for us. You know, we're really coming up short, and we really need about $100." There she was, sitting with that $100, and she said, "God put on her heart, you need to give this money." Yeah. But you know, she knew that money was supposed to go for her outfit, but here was her friend in need of that same amount, and so she gave it. And then she said that she felt like, okay, she wasn't as excited when it came the time to go shopping because she thought she was just going to be looking and picking out for purchase later. Yeah. And then she had how many outfits? 7 outfits, or so. I don't know how many she said, but anyway, she said she had tried on everything and had went back to get dressed after she had decided on you know, what she would buy later. So she went back to put her regular clothes on, and while she was gone, what did her friends do for her?
Traded her to everything that she had picked out, and it was a $700 shopping spree.
So her $100 that she let go and used in the way that she felt called to do, now she benefited 7 times that, because she got $700 worth of clothes, and she was only originally going to get $100 worth. And you know, she just thought, wow, this is how God, you know, pours out His blessings 7 times more. And she thought of that verse, you know, see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing you will not have room for it. She said, I was shocked and humbled that God had taken the little gift I'd given to my friend and returned it 7-fold through other friends. And you know, it may not be 7-fold, it may be 10-fold, it may just be 1.5, but it's going to be more, and it's going to be a lot more eventually. Yeah. You know, when you give with the right attitude, I think. So, what do you think about that? You like that story?
Yeah, I liked it. It makes me think of the movie Flywheel. You know, the first of the Facing the Giants movies.
Yeah, what part?
The one where, if you haven't seen the movie, it's really good. But the guy owns a car dealership, and he had been like ripping people off for years. And so then like he gets right with God, and he's like, you know, being honest. And then they're like, well, what about all those people that we ripped off? Like, I feel bad about that. And then they're like, well, we really don't have the money to pay everybody back. And then they calculate how much they would owe people if they paid them back, and how much they had, and it was the exact same amount. And the wife's like, if this is a flashing sign from God saying pay them back, because it was like the exact amount. And then they pay them back, and then their business just like explodes, and they're blessed tremendously because of, you know, their honesty and their commitment to do better.
Right.
So
yeah, I like that movie too.
Part of it looks like it's literally filmed with a handheld camera.
I think some of it might have been.
It is.
It actually was filmed before Facing the Giants, wasn't it?
But once Facing the Giants got popular, it kind of, people went back and watched it.
Yeah, and it's good. So if you hadn't seen it, it's their low budget movie, but it's really good. It'll shock you because you don't see it coming. You don't see the twist coming. Or I didn't anyway.
Well, I just gave part of it away.
Well, it's okay. They won't remember that when they watch it. But yeah, you know, being willing to do the right thing, whether it's giving, whether it's, you know, making up for something that you've done wrong. I think that willingness is key here. All right, so the life that's truly life. She gives us, let's see, there's 2 radical blessings tucked within Paul's words, and she had given us a quote there from 1 Timothy, and she said there's two radical blessings. The first one is also referenced in Matthew 6, and it speaks of laying up treasures in heaven, sending that which we cannot take with us ahead, where we can enjoy it and benefit from it for eternity. If you knew you could immediately enjoy a treasure for one day here, or enjoy it forever if you waited a short while, which would you choose? And she said, in this light, the eternal root makes so much more sense. It really does too, doesn't it? We don't really think about that though, but you know, the Bible does tell us, like, if we put our treasures in our heart and our treasure into stuff here, moth and rust are going to take it away, so it ain't going to last long.
Yeah.
But if we if we give, and we do with heaven in mind, then we'll store up treasures in heaven. I don't know exactly how that works, but it sounds pretty good that we're going to store them up.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing here has an impact there. You know, so it's not just an impact here; it's an impact there to give. And although I've heard that all my life, there was something about this little story that kind of made me think, well, I guess I never really thought about that. What we do here is going to store up treasures for us in heaven. Like, we're going to get up there and they're going to be a big old treasure chest, and some of us going to open it up, ain't going to be nothing in it. Others of us going to open it up and go, woohoo, look at all this stuff that I got because of that I was radically obedient, you know. And it really is you know, it's a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think heaven's going to be enough, whether my chest of treasure is empty or full, but it does. I mean, we're really here for just a short period of time.
Yeah.
And we need to be mindful of that and not look at this life as all there is, because it's not. It's only like, you know, a vapor or a wave in the ocean. It's just a whoosh, you know. And I think when we look at our life and our life on earth versus how much time we're going to spend in our eternal home, it's such a game changer, such a perspective changer as to what we're gripping so tightly and holding on to here.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we need to be reminded of that, because the world is just the opposite of that. The world tells you to do what you like, spend every bit of money you can get on yourself, keep up with the Joneses, you know, just keep this, you know, this is all there is, so you better enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's what the world tells us. And Jesus tells us something totally different than that. We need to remember that, because sometimes as Christians we forget about that, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one was, laying up treasures in heaven. The second blessing goes hand in hand with the first. God is aware of our humanness and our desire for instant gratification, and He tends to that too. So it's not just a either or, is it?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, hey, if I'm radically obedient in my giving, then I'm gonna store up treasures in heaven, but I may not have a bite to eat here. No, God's gonna take care of me here and there.
Yeah.
And it's all comes back to that willingness, I think, to turn it loose. Because God always rewards us when we're willing to do what we're led to do.
Yeah.
To live a life that's truly life is to live abundantly in the here and now, too. We're blessed for today and we're blessed for eternity. Let's see. I like the part at the end of 131 where it says, the act of giving is a vivid reminder that it's all about God, not about us. It's saying, I'm not the point, He is the point.
Yeah. I like a line or two on down from that one. It says, giving is a joyful surrender to a greater person and a greater agenda.
Yeah, greater agenda. Wow, that really puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're saving your $100 for an outfit. I mean, that's your agenda. That's what your goal was. And all of a sudden you look at the eternal impact that $100 could have on your friend. Not losing, not having their lights turned off, or not having to do without food, or whatever it was that they were in desperate need of. I mean, that's a big deal. We don't know. We don't always know what the impact of our giving is, do we? But if we kind of, if you're looking for a place to give, there are great organizations to give to. There's always people in need if you look around. I'm a believer in giving to the church, but also to giving to organizations that are doing good for people. Soup Kitchen, Compassion International, International Leadership Institution, which is Joy and Wes Griffin's institution, where they're training missionaries. Things like that, those are very good ways to give if you're looking for a way to give. Not to mention just people that you come across that are in need. And you never know what $20, $100, $200, how it can really change somebody's. Sometimes we think, well, I don't have but this little amount that I could give. That probably ain't going to make any impact, but it can make a big impact. $5 can make an impact when you're doing without. And I think a lot of times, once you're willing to give, you can pray about what amount. You don't have to just say, okay, I'm willing to give. I got $1.50 here. I'm gonna give it. You kind of need to think and pray on, now, what amount are you asking me to give? Because I think that's important too. And it made me think about, again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, the thing that Susan told me, my extra is someone else's portion. So if I'm not willing to give of my extra, and that's not really sacrificial. If you're giving of your extra, but if you're giving of your extra to somebody, and then you're giving it, just think what impact you can have, But if we choose not to do those things, then we're cheating ourselves out of the blessing of giving, and we're keeping somebody from having what they need. Not just what they want, but what they need. Okay, what else? What else we got here?
Then she goes on and she talks about the friends of hers.
Oh yeah, the orthodontist guy.
Who they were planning to build a new house, and both him and the wife both kind of separately felt like they were being called to give it to their church, who they were building a new church. And they were both kind of like scared to tell the other one that that's what they were thinking, because it sounds, so like.
Sounds so radical, doesn't it?
And so when they finally both talked about it, they realized that they were both thinking the same thing. And so they did it, and then they kind of stayed just in that mindset and then they ended up leaving and going on mission work.
Yeah. I liked where down at the bottom of 133 when it said the man's name was Dane, and she said Dane would say that people ask him, why am I doing this? Selling my thriving practice, taking my, when he was going to the mission field, and going out, you know, and doing these missions. And he said, I have to point to the overwhelming joy and fulfillment I feel at this point in my life, in my relationship with the Lord. I only wish I could place my heart inside that person questioning me and let them experience the joy that I feel for just 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know, because he knew he couldn't properly explain it, did he? But he wishes he could let people experience that. You know, turning loose and holding on loosely to what God's blessed you with, and then allowing God to lead you where he wants you to go. Mm-hmm. And so they were going into the mission field.
Yeah. And
I've seen people do, like, you know, give large chunks of money or large chunks of their time, and those people seem to be so, they just have like a contentment, a joy, mm-hmm. a peace about giving it. They're not worried about it.
Yeah.
They're not going, oh my gracious, I know God's supposed to bless me, but wonder when he's going to.
Yeah. Well, that's what I liked back on 132 when it said a joyful surrender. Mm-hmm. Because I think, you know, sometimes you think, well, I could give it, but I might not be too happy. Like, oh, here you go. But like a joyful surrender, like that's a whole different thing.
And giving it gladly.
Yeah.
Realizing it wasn't yours to start with. I mean, you could claim it, mm-hmm. but really, you know, you can't take it with you when you go, they say, right?
Yeah.
But if you do the right thing, it's getting stored up there in that eternal bank up there, isn't it? Yeah. So let's see what else she said. We fear that giving sacrificially will make our lives empty, mm-hmm. when in reality, withholding is what leads to emptiness. Giving, releasing, and surrendering to God in this way is what leads to more fulfillment than we ever dreamed possible. I like that. That's on the top of page 134, mm-hmm. if you're looking at wondering where I'm reading that. But I thought that was really good, because we do. That's what we think. We think giving sacrificially means that we're going to be empty of something. Mm-hmm. But it's really the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, I've always heard too, if you are feeling down and out or wondering what to do for God, you know, you feel like you need to be doing something else, do something for others.
Yeah.
You know, give of your time, give of your talents, give of your money, just give. Find a way to help somebody, and it makes you feel better, doesn't it? It really has a way of, you know, perking us up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that she talks some about that in the next section here. She's talking about this. In this section, she's talking about the CD, which kind of tugged at my heart, because, you know, anybody that knows me knows I like to make CDs for people. And, you know, my kids kind of laugh because evidently that's kind of outdated. But oh well, I'm kind of outdated anyway. But I love good music. And when I find music that kind of inspires me or makes me feel good or helps me get through a crisis, I like to put it on, make a CD and label it with a Sharpie and then give it to people, you know. And I've got some friends that like for me to give them a CD. I've had a few friends that told me that CDs meant something to them. I got a few friends that say, no, I want no CD. I ain't going to listen to it. Don't give it to me. But to me, it's worth it when a person will come back and go, wow, you know, I've been listening to that, and it really has touched my heart, and I really appreciate that. I've had just a couple of people to do that through the years, and it has always just meant a lot to me, that I was able to give them. And she said in this story about that the lady loved the CD that she gave her, and then said that, remembered that God, that somebody prayed for her and said God is going to send you a song, mm-hmm. that's going to help you, and there it was, you know. So what, I mean, you know, and Lisa thought the cost of a CD is really small, and they're even smaller for me because I just I just put them on a blank CD and give them to them. I don't actually buy them, and well, I have a few times, but But you know, there's different ways of reaching out and giving, isn't there? It doesn't have to be of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was you were going to say something about that?
No, I liked it, and it reminded me of you because of your CD.
You probably think my kids will be like, do they even make CDs anymore, Mama? Do people even have CD players in their cars anymore?
Well, my CD player's been broken in my car for about 5 years. So
you can't play.
You making a CD for me wouldn't do me any good
No.
because my CD player's broken.
But you have it all on your phone. You can listen to anyway. So. Yeah, she said that the lady said he promised not to leave her and that he would give her a song to minister to her. A song, Lisa, a song, she exclaimed. God promised me a song, and he used your hands to deliver it to me last night. And she said, tears welled up in my eyes, and I realized that what I thought was a simple gift had actually been a well-timed God event for my friend's life. And the blessings didn't end there. Later that same day, the vice president of a large ministry called me on my cell phone. She said God had given her an idea for special retreats to reach women all across the country. She goes on to talk. She said the lady wrote down the people that she wanted to lead it. She wrote down her own name. Then she wrote down Lisa's name. And then guess who the third name was? The person who was the singer on the CD, the Christian artist. And she said, and all I did was give away a CD. And God blessed her that much. I so want to know who that was.
I know, we could probably look it up.
I think I need to know who the Christian artist was and what the CD is, because I want to get it so I can listen to it. Because if it blessed her that much, I want to hear it too, don't y'all? Maybe we'll try to dig into that and find out. And I might have to put it on Roots and Wings. We'll say, this is the CD that Lisa talked about. Okay, what you got next on that next set? The blessings of a sacrificial life.
I like when she says, I'm convinced there is a treasure in life that very few find, a heart that is at rest in his presence. And how do we find this heart at rest? Through actions and in his truth. And I like what she said. She says, I must confess, I have moments where my heart is at rest in his presence, but they are broken up by pitfalls and pity parties.
Well, I think we all.
But aren't we all that way?
I think we all are. Yeah, and the verse that she quotes up there from 1 John 3:18 and 19, dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. This then is how we know that we belong to the truth and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence. So he's telling us, right? He's telling us how to set our hearts at rest with him through actions and through his truth, you know? Not just with our words, but with our actions, you know? Which means not just saying we're going to give to somebody or saying, oh, poor thing, they need help. But actually following through and doing what you can do for somebody.
Yeah.
You know, in the South down here, we say, bless your heart, you know. Oh, you got something wrong with you, bless your heart. Well, how about we bless your heart by trying to help you with what's going on? Whether it's financial, whether it's always, you know, prayer is good. And it's also good to tell people when you're praying for them. Because I think that means a lot to people. And, you know, but maybe I need to, you know, give you a helping hand. Maybe I need to come pick you up, take you out for a, you know, ice cream down at the Dairy Queen. Maybe that would, you know, bless your heart, wouldn't it? That would bless your heart, yeah. But how do we find the peace that she's talking about here in our hearts? Is that there's actions that we have to do, not just words. Yeah. She says, you know, she knows this about actions and truth, but she said, but when I choose selfishness, I may be happy for the moment, but I'm miserable for the long run. She said, yes, my Lord, with his incredible patience, doesn't leave me in my misery. I call out to him in repentance, and just like the connect the dot game, Jesus fills in the gaps between the dots to reveal a beautiful picture of himself in my life. What if there were less and less space between my dots, revealing an even clearer picture of Christ in my life at all times? She said, setting my heart at rest in his presence in this way comes with practice and maturity. the more I practice His presence, the more I will experience His presence, and the more mature I will become. I can't read. I was thinking over there, when we first started this section, I was thinking, that old saying, it's more blessed to give than it is to receive. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, like, when you're a kid, you think that is the biggest crock of baloney I have ever heard, don't you? Mm-hmm. I mean, I probably said that to you when you're little. It's more blessed to give than to receive. You probably thought, give me that present, didn't you? Because I remember as a kid thinking, who come up with that? Somebody wasn't getting no presents, came up with that. But it seems like the older you get, the more fun it becomes to give. Yeah. Like picking out gifts for people. And sometimes it's hard to pick out for people because you don't know what is the perfect, you want the perfect gift. But if you find something that you think is it's so much fun, isn't it? Like you anticipate giving it to them and how happy it's going to make them, and it just makes you joyful, doesn't it? And I think, that is like a sign of our Christian maturity and not just like our physical maturity. Because when I was a kid, I thought that ain't even true. So to me, like being maybe a young or immature Christian, no matter what your physical age is, but if you're an immature Christian or you're just getting started in your faith, it's a little harder to be giving and realize the blessing that comes from it. Yeah. But the longer that you follow Jesus and the longer you stay on that path, the more you realize the joy that comes from being radically obedient with your resources. Mm-hmm. So I think we can look at it like from a worldly standard, like when you're a kid, it's hard to think that that's even true. You think, I think somebody made that mess up. But, maybe as a young Christian, you might think, well, it's kind of hard for me to let go of that $10 bill, But once I do, it's kind of like all of our other parts of our faith. The more you live it, the more you do it, and the more you see the faithfulness of God, the easier it becomes to keep doing it, isn't it? Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of a good way to look at it, Like I was thinking about kids at Christmas, and people say, oh, it's more blessed to give than receive. Give me that present. Give me that present. I want that present. And what'd you get me? I didn't get you nothing. Oh, man. But then she does a little section from a lady named Elizabeth George, where she talks about a mature, ripened stalk of grain. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Did you like that? Or did you...
I liked it. I hadn't ever really heard that before.
Yeah, like a stalk of grain when it first is young, it just shoots straight up and goes way up and straight up, because it don't have fruit on it or grain to hold it down. It's just growing and going straight up. But then as time passes and maturity sets in, fruit starts to form on the stalk. And then it gets heavier and it bends up its head and lowers. I thought about, humble. Mm-hmm. Being humble and being, what makes us humble? Maybe it's the fruit, and that's what the Bible tells us, that, we need to bear fruit. And we bear fruit by being connected to Jesus. Not on our own, but because we're connected, that we can bear fruit. And then bearing that fruit makes us bend in humility. And bend because there's fruit there. So that's a good thing, isn't it? Yeah. So the lower the head, the greater the amount of fruit in that particular analogy. All right.
Yeah, and then it has a little prayer there.
I thought we might use that prayer as our as we dismiss tonight. Yeah. I really like that prayer. Mm-hmm. But she says, God owns it all. We are simply managers of His resources. When we pursue the beautiful opportunities of sacrificial living, we freely acknowledge that truth and then reap the blessings. When we come to understand that we're giving up what was never ours to begin with, then we're walking in radical obedience. Mm-hmm. The realization and then the follow through. Yeah. Because you got to realize it. And then you can do it. Mm-hmm. but it's the realization and the action that follows that makes you radically obedient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because just realizing it on your own ain't going to do a whole lot of nothing. It's a start.
Yeah.
You know, it's where we all have to start in our realization. And then we get over here to the questions. Did you answer the questions, Cass?
I answered some of them.
Okay. Well, let's go through some of these. We got enough time to? Yeah, we got a few minutes. We can go through these. We got any comments or?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, trying to get all of them to come up. But Jerry said that they were watching. Said, "Hey, Jerry
y'all.
and Sam."
Jessica's feeling better.
Yes. And then Miss Linda Marlowe said she was watching, and
Hey,
then Kelsey said she likes CDs.
I make Kelsey see
Miss
this.
Linda said that she also does. And then Kelsey says, I like Dairy Queen. And you talked about Dairy Queen.
We'll get some Dairy Queen, Kelsey.
And then Miss Linda said, you can't outgive God.
No, you really can't, can you? Never. Because, you know, God is, and here we are in the middle of Holy Week this week, where, you know, at the end of this week is where Jesus gave the ultimate sacrifice for us.
Yeah.
Talk about giving right there. You know, that's great. It's a great week to be talking about giving, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so on page 138 on the Bible study questions, she said, or the question was, though our hearts are not often tempted to bow down to statues and gods of other religions, we often are tempted to bow down to other things. Write some things that tempt us to pull our focus off God. And I wrote down 4 things that just popped in my head. I thought about as what pulls our focus off God: how we look, where we live, what we drive, and how to give our family more material things. Sometimes